Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio. Welcome back, everybody. Our next guest is a supreme spiritual guide, courage mentor, and a highly intuitive woman. She is in the business of supporting women leaders to feel bold, seen, worthy, and creating a healing, successful world. As a speaker and thought leader, researcher, mother of three, who applies her innate gift of intuition and sound healing to activate positive transformation in lives of people and communities she serves. Please welcome to the show Rachael Abah. So let's welcome Rachael to the show. Rachael, you've come a long way to be found on this interview because you actually moved from Africa. You actually moved from Africa to England to Canada, was it?
Correct.
And how I guess the big thing is how has all of that cultural differences and things like that, how has that aided more to you being a spiritual guide and a courage mentor?
Well, thank you, first of all, for having me here, Michael. Truly appreciate it. And I'm so looking forward to our conversation together. In terms of moving here and, how I came to this work. So again, Rachael Abah, I identify as a supreme spiritual guide and courage mentor to highly intuitive women leaders. And essentially, I'm in the business of supporting women in becoming bold, in feeling seen and free to be able to go out into the world and create meaningful success for themselves on their terms. And that is the work, and it's also who I am being. That is my story. And so as someone who also identifies as highly intuitive, this was me from the very beginning. It was whether or not I was hiding it, hiding aspects of myself and not fully stepping into my own truth and into my own power because of that belief that who I was being or who I was, either had no place in the world or was too much or was somehow, there were judgments around it. And so it wasn't a career per se that I didn't go to school to be a spiritual guide. I just was. And then what I did, because there was that limiting belief, those judgments around, okay, then Rachael, how do I present this so that it's more palatable to the world? Okay, go and find the education and go into lines of work that will make it make sense in people's minds, right? So this is who I was anyway. Then I went and I have a certificate in, experiential psychotherapy. It's like, oh, okay, so that's why, okay, people will make that leap of, okay, that's why she speaks the way she does or interacts with people in that way, or no, that's who I was. I just went out and got the education to hide behind so that it makes sense to people and they're not kind of like, but it was definitely not my leading edge. I always used it as my little secret sauce, my intuitiveness. And so in going to England, I spent a lot of time on my own in my own imagination. So it was a beautiful beautiful experience because I went to an all-girls boarding school in the countryside. It was like Harry Potter before, Rowling's.
Right.
Like that was my, you know. Um, and so I had a lot of time to immerse myself in story and art and creative expression. Took up a lot of hobbies, a lot of, yeah, I really developed that artistic and creative aspect of who I am. And so I'm deeply grateful for that. And then coming to Canada was a bigger culture shock coming to Canada from England than it was going from Nigeria to England for me,
Really?
which is kind of weird because you would think Commonwealth, England, but for me, everything just felt different coming to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, everything felt different, and I never, as much as I love, being in Toronto, in Ontario, and like everyone being, beautiful and welcoming. It wasn't so much that it was. I found it very difficult to um, feel grounded here in terms of spirituality. In
Okay.
Nigeria, spirit and spirituality is very much in the culture, in the language, in the DNA. It's
Oh,
not,
yes.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
everything is, like, there's hardly anything you would say that, people can't process.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you an example. You can, and this is a real conversation. Um, someone went to the market. They're like, "Oh, I usually buy such and such from so and so person. I don't see them here." And the person's like, "Oh, someone put a spell on them and turned them into a goat, and the family has been struggling ever since." And they're like, "Oh, I hope he gets better." Well, who can I go buy? And that's like, these are conversations from like people who have been to like higher education, and we don't miss a beat, right, in terms of the fantastical and the metaphysical and the
Right.
spiritual realms. It's very much in the conversation, right? Go to England, there's a whole other folklore around. There's a
Right.
different kind of history. There are a lot of that. They're very fetish in terms of their belief systems and fairy tale. Like it's a different, and the landscape lends itself beautifully to superstition. So that was a good transition for me. So it wasn't, um, I went with it. But coming to Canada, I didn't have the same bridge in just the regular life. So that spiritual aspect of that rich inner world, now it looks very different. Now it's, I experience it being more open and more alternative thinking and all of that. It seems more normal now, but at the time, I didn't experience those conversations with people. You'd say something or I'd say something and I would get a lot of funny looks. That imagination was not there quite the same way. And so that aspect of myself got dampened and I suppressed it significantly
Hmm.
coming to Canada. Yeah.
I see.
And so in terms of, now leading with this, where this is a new period in my life where I did the work. I got the education to kind of, it's like, oh, she studied English literature. Okay, that explains the imagination, right? She studied, oh, that,
Yeah.
and so that was a beautiful cocoon, like a little cloak to wear and explain myself, and without having me to actually explain myself. And then, COVID hit, and I get these nudgings and these spiritual downloads, and it was just time. Like my spiritual guide literally was like, Rachel, you're out of runway. You've taxied long enough. Now you're required
Right.
in the world. And it was like 0 to 100. So I'd waffled for as long as I could and used it in other ways. So I have a background in sales and marketing, and I've done all kinds of things, and fashion. Like, I've done all kinds of things, and this intuition has always served me as my secret sauce, because I can, read between the lines and hear what isn't spoken and connect with people deeply, and that has always worked well, which is in terms of like being in service roles,
Right.
has always worked very well for me, and connecting with people and relationship. So now it's like I get to be out here and I get to lead from the front. So what do? You get to be yourself. Who's that? Like what? Like all of it, whole and complete, and you get to be out there and support other women in their journey of whatever, like translating whatever flavor of weird they perceive themselves to be, and that ends up being their leading edge and their medicine.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. You used the word weird, and it's a word that I usually shy away from.
I used to. Me too.
But okay, this coming from for those of you who are listening to this and you're not actually on a Rumble page where you get to see the video, that Rachael is very very well put together, and she has the coloring that she's wearing actually accentuates who she is as a person, right? So your fashion represents you, right? And then when people see me, they're like, "Oh, you're a guy. You're not supposed to wear pink." But yeah, I have a number of pink shirts because hey, one, I like it, and two, it looks good on me.
It suits you, right? It makes you feel great in it.
Yeah, exactly, and that's more to the point. When you look good, you start to feel good, right? And the bold part of what you say is that bold part means, hey, this is me. I'm not going to apologize for being me.
Unapologetic.
Right? So how do you get women to, because North American women, for a lot of what they say, there's a lot of criticism about, in North America, about Afghanistan, Iran, because of the hijabs, the burqas, all that sort of stuff, right? But there is a different type of suppression that is more spiritual than draping a burqa over somebody that happens here in North America. When you start talking about, oh yeah, we let you be CEO of that company, but guess what?
However,
you'll never make as much as I do. Your company will never succeed on the levels that I do.
Yeah, that is the. Well, I mean, are you asking if that has been my experience?
No,
or are you asking
about the bold part and how you assist women? I mean, how do you?
Well, this is the thing. It's not all women are welcome to come to me to co-create and to be my clients. However, not all women are wired to work with me.
Okay.
Because some people want the benefits of a change in their lives and improvement in certain areas, yet are unwilling to make a commitment. And not only make a commitment, are unwilling to become committed in action, right? In deed.
Okay.
To be able to enact that change.
Yeah.
So we can wish and hope all we want. Right? You can wish and hope you want more pay. Are you willing to become who is required to generate said income? Because it's a different mindset, a different intention, a different commitment. Are you willing to step up and be that which will be required to hold the charge of that position?
So what you're
that
saying
responsibility
is like on the human rights level, it's like the right versus the privilege. But are you willing to stand in that
Are you
spot
willing to, are
to
you willing
receive
to
that right?
become, yeah, so here's the thing, and this is, a lot of the time it's very easy to go into like politics and gender
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes I think I'm nobody's friend, um, because I look at things from a bird's eye view, like energetically speaking,
Mm-hmm.
which comes in that whole transpersonal issue of beyond the personal, supernatural, beyond the natural, looking at this holistically. There are many ways that I can experience the world as oppressive, a relationship as oppressive. Um, you know, there are many ways to
Well,
do that.
oppression is also a point of view.
It can also be perception. However, this is not to negate that there are systems in place that are designed specifically to distract, undermine,
Yes.
um, you know,
Mm-hmm.
essentially just, yeah, rigged in favor of certain groups or certain people, whether or not they're aware of it, right?
Right.
Whether or not they participate consciously in it does not change the reality of the systems at play in this particular paradigm. So, in terms of, if I'm identify as a woman, I cannot think for one moment that I can fight and advocate for me and other women to have access to something because of said system oppressing and rigging the game,
Mm-hmm.
but then be okay with the same system rigged and oppressing someone else that doesn't fit into whatever narrow agenda I have for freedom. It's the same
Okay. Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
So if I'm fighting
Absolutely.
for the rights of women to have access, but I have an issue with a Muslim, or have an issue with a black person or a brown person or anyone who does not look like what my version of human
Right.
and worthy
It,
is, you as an activist of women's rights have already failed.
well, equality is equality, right?
You know, and equality, even that I sometimes have issue with,
Okay.
because like that ought not be a conversation. It's not up to another human being to determine what I get to have access to. It's above your pay grade. Like, you weren't here, right? So
Right.
I have a completely different perspective. It's like, as someone who, and we've discussed this before in earlier meetings where we were like avid history buffs. Like,
Yes.
we love history. We love, like, getting to like the
Oh.
roots of things, and right. And this is exciting because that has been part of my journey in terms of, being an intuitive, and I get these, downloads, and then I'm giving direction of what to look into in order to be able to translate it in a language that others can
Right.
receive.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my own education, spiritually and physically,
Mm-hmm.
intellectually, I've come across so much knowledge that would completely blow, but like literally you'd have to renew your mind in order to even get it, right? So I know who I am. All of that to say about the boldness, right? About the
Mm-hmm.
confidence and the worthiness, because this comes down to a worthiness conversation, that I am worthy. I don't feel what I am
Yeah.
worthy. I do not give away my power because my power is not mine to give, and it's impossible to give power. I can lose my connection to my power. Like the power is always there.
Yes.
But for whatever reason, whether it's a belief, whether it's something systemic, there can be almost like a tourniquet. It can only act as a tourniquet. And I get to sign off on it for it to be true. Right? Like you can't.
I can't tell. Leading us into a different conversation now.
Oh. No, but it's the same thing of knowing who I am, and as long as I know that, I am bold. Like it's not Rachel trying to be bold. I just am, and I will be received that way. To someone else, I would be perfectly normal, but to someone else who might have their own limiting beliefs and their own ideas, they might experience me as too much, and then try to like curtail that. But I see that as a personal problem. It never has to be for me because I'm on a different frequency. There are many issues that people who look like me experience that I never experience. Okay. Because I know because whoever's coming up with whatever narrative they got indoctrinated into, I know who you are. Right. So we come together on a completely different level.
Right.
There's no like I have no. It doesn't fit into the reality I live in.
It doesn't move through the reality barrier.
It doesn't apply. Yeah, it's neutralized. It's like I have a force field around it, and you come with that, and the words, you don't even complete your sentence because whatever it is you're coming at me with, your ideas are not held up in my presence because I am antithetical to your reality.
Right.
So either we don't cross paths because we're not on the same frequency, or your behavior, you're almost like not even almost, you are a different person with me. And then when you go out of my presence, then you can do whatever you choose to do, but you are different in my presence.
Okay. Right. And I totally understand you have this essence of wherever's around you, it's free.
So it's that analogy of thermometer versus thermostat, right? The analogy of I change the temperature in a room. Right. I shift the energy in a space. I don't twist myself into a pretzel to have you feel comfortable. Yeah. Because my life is about finding comfort in the discomfort. Because that's where I grow. That's where I expand my capacity. And that's why I support other women in tapping into that and claiming that and embracing that without judgment. Because it's the judgment that permits others to come and I magnetize that and I make that true in my reality. But you can't come with that mess when you know who you are.
Right. Yeah. That was a great answer.
I'll have to watch this over to know what I said.
Don't worry. I'll make sure you have a copy.
Thank you.
And I'll even turn off a copy of the raw before I edit it. Wow. Because that's one of the things is and I don't want to go down this path too far, but a lot of times you're right, we just sign off, oh, here you go, and it happens in so many different ways and forms that people are talking about this conversation about, oh, this party influenced our vote, that's why we wound up with no. Or they say, they buy totally into whatever that corporate message is on that television, and don't realize that they can turn it off because they've bought so far into it. It's like you can turn it off. They're like, Oh, you have to
Yeah,
watch it.
it's the conversation of, whether or not you're in leader mode or victim mode, of life happening to you or life happening for you. And I don't know, and I imagine that most people don't realize how powerful they are, like how
Hmm.
truly powerful they are. And when you know that, there's certain things that, I mean, take the example of just working at a company. All the different people who work at that company, when they signed on to say yes for whatever position, all those people with the same position are not earning the same money. They don't
Very
have the
true.
same package.
Yes.
When you went in and negotiated, and the company, whoever it was, HR, hiring manager said, we're paying $80,000, that's our final offer. And then, you go in with an employee only mindset of, I make do with what I'm presenting, and I guess I have no choice because that's what the company said. You go in with that mindset and you be like, okay, thank you. I'm so grateful for the opportunity. I'm just glad I have a job. As opposed to, okay, that's your best offer. What else are you willing to put in? I get that that's a hard no on the money and you're unable to shift on that, but do I get free parking? Maybe an extra week of vacation, right? Like, these are the conversations, and you negotiate something for yourself. What do you want? But it's not like, oh my God, I guess we're stuck with this party again, ruining our lives and raising taxes. Like, how willing are you to participate in the process? Did you go out when this person was campaigning? Did you show up and ask questions? Were you there in the middle of the day? Did you take time off to go sit in when that law was being passed? Like, you know what I mean? Like, did you
Yeah.
participate? Did you call up all the privileges and resources available to you as a citizen? Or are you just hoping and wishing and praying and fasting that this time maybe we'll get it right? Like, what did I personally, what skin did I put in the game? Am I running
Well,
for office? Like,
see
you
that
know?
therein lies the rub right there. Is it's my community, so partly I want to make sure that I have skin in who gets in that office.
Yes. But there's this idea too, this, that, well, that's their job. We're giving it to them to do. They're supposed to do the right thing by us. And my only job is to just, live my life and take care of my family. But when we look around the world and we look at, there's no perfect, right? But we look at nations that have a high level of civic engagement, politically, socially, like on every level. And they have like a no bullshit policy where a politician sneezes the wrong way and like literally the entire nation comes to a grinding halt and everyone is out there asking for answers and demanding, and we're not moving until, and they're unanimous, you know
Yeah.
um they have very, we like, oh, one of 10, one of the best places to live for women. And what, there's a reason. Oh, this place has, great, great society for women, like women's rights, and women seem to be really, freer in these, like usually some like small Nordic country, but that's because there is a history. Those women are not showing up the same way, unfortunately, that we're showing up here in North America.
Yeah, that's true.
It's busy, right? Like, these are the reasons we give. I'm
Oh,
busy.
yeah. They talk
I
about
work all the time.
they talk about the some of the happier places in the world, and some of those happiest places in the world, the citizens don't stand for.
They stand for nothing. Like they're
They
like,
they,
no, they don't
they
put up. They
they
don't
don't
put
put
up with
up
anything.
with it,
They don't
right?
put up with crap.
They stand for what it
Yes,
is that they need. That's what they
yes, and
stand
they're
for.
willing to experience discomfort.
Yes.
right? So the discomfort of taking time off of whatever it is to show up to say no, not
Well,
on my
I was going to
watch.
say, when you stand for something, sometimes it gets uncomfortable.
But that is what is required.
Right.
So when we live in a culture of immediate gratification and comfort,
Mm-hmm.
this is what you get.
Well,
Other people making decisions for you, and you get to make do with whatever it is you get until you say no. And it's not, and the other thing too is it's one thing to have that yourself, like you can say it, but if you're a lone voice, and
sometimes it
then
feels
you
that
just
way.
become that crackpot and you're easier to to be silenced, right?
Yeah.
But when you have an agreement, a social agreement, and a commitment, this is where relationships come into play,
Yeah.
and connection,
Yes.
right? And that intimacy. So you get to invest in order to be able to reap the bounty that we romanticize, right? We can complain all we want, but again, it's that skin in the game.
Yeah.
So having that community, it takes an investment to create those enviable streets that some people live on,
Yeah.
because they make themselves available to their neighbors.
Yeah.
They reach out to their neighbors. They show up for their neighbors. This is there's an investment of energy, time, resources, and then you get to reap the benefits of having, communities that trust each other, communities that will take to the streets for one another, for what they want, people who will not remain silent when, oppressive remarks are made.
Yeah.
Because it's like, that is not the Michael I know. So would you like to rephrase that?
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because this is real powerful stuff, right? How do you teach this to the people who work with you? How do you get them to coach them through it and get them to come around to it?
Well, I mean, already there's a willingness to, they've already recognized in their own lives that, okay, what I've been doing has been great. It has got me to this point. However, I get to do things differently, and I get to step up, like level up to, there's a different level of the game here. So already that you're rolling up your sleeves and this is deep work. And it gets to feel very uncomfortable. So what is that saying? A mind convinced against its will is of the same opinion still. So I am, in my work, I'm not attempting to convince or get you to accept something. I'm not selling anything on
Right.
that level. Like, either you're ready,
Mm-hmm.
not because you have all the tools ready, but the readiness is more willingness. It's that I don't know what this will entail. I get that, there'll be times where I want to run for the hills. You're my accountability partner and you will hold me high. So as I'm going through withdrawals from, this, the world the way it is, that, it's like a drug, right? We wean ourselves off of this, or sometimes it can be cold turkey, but either way, you're going through a restructuring, a rewiring. And that's why it's called transformation. You're literally and viscerally transforming the way you speak. I work with the words that people use and how you speak. I work with clients around how they frame things, reframing things, perspective, how you shift that, how you recognize opportunity instead of challenge, instead of looking at life as problematic. How do I leverage that? We change languaging, we change perspective. We put in, systems in place for what you don't hope for stuff. You actually, you're building, right? And you're creating, you're a leader, you have a vision, first of all. What is your vision? What is your why? What is your leading at? What is it, right? What means so much to you that you're willing to take the day off to go stand?
Yeah.
Who are you being? Because from that point of who you're being is what then determines what you get to create in the world, what communities you create,
Mm-hmm.
what relationships you create, what kind of jobs you create for others, what kind of company you run. A very, from that, once you get it at the root of
Mm-hmm.
who you're being, then you become, that transforming energy within your environment where, and we've seen this too, I mean, you've probably experienced this as well, where in some people's presence, you don't swear. Is it because you
Okay.
don't know how to swear? No, it's because you just,
Right.
you're like, oh, I won't do it.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the energy. So we get to literally bioform and terraform environment in service for a higher benefit to all. Not some, all.
Yeah.
That's the conversation.
Wow.
So either it's for you or it's not. And there's nothing, no one comes to me like ready to like, it's more of either I've tried everything, I'm hitting a wall and I feel like I'm dying inside.
Yeah.
I can't continue living this way. I refuse to continue. I require support because up until now, I've been unable to trust myself to see this through, right? Completion energy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get to support and hold you high, even when you're flailing and swearing, right? And I hate this, I want to run, and with love, just holding you high until you can embody that new way of being for yourself and build your
Yeah.
desired life.
And see, there. That's why people connected us together, because you said it right there that you want to hold them high with love, so they start to
Yes.
understand. Yeah.
No shame, no blame. It's, this is the
Yeah.
situation. Does it serve you or does it
Mm-hmm.
not serve you? If it doesn't serve you, what are you willing to do and who are you willing to become
Right.
in order for you to that full integration of self, not just I'm nice at work and I'm horrible at home to my family. Like it's not all or nothing. It's about expanding our capacity as human beings and that full integration of self so that you're not judging aspects of yourself, but rather embracing. And when, in my experience of doing that, and even in my own journey, the moment I began to fully integrate and not compartmentalize spirituality here, secular there, right? I was able to just say, no, this is me whole and completely, unapologetically, loving and powerful. And if you experience me as too much, then what you're telling me is that you are not enough to be in my presence. If you experience me as not enough, then again, that's not about me.
Right.
And I see that, and I'm able to not like get triggered around and be like, "Oh my God, you're trying to impress me." No, it's like your life must. What happened?
Yeah.
What happened to you
Yeah.
between 0 and 8? Right. So anyway, so it's different.
Between zero and 8. You toss the extra year in there than most people do, but I get it, right? They're called the formative years for a reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like looking at the clock. Oh my God, I'm running out of time. It's like we always do this, right? Every time we talk to each other, we do this. So let me ask you this:
Yes.
how do you see the world, and what is it did you vision?
How do I see the world?
Yeah, what do you vision when you look out at the world um on the whole? What do you vision?
Okay. So just to ensure that I'm receiving the question in the way you intend, in terms of what my desire is
Yeah.
or how I actually see it right now.
Well, let's. It's probably the question is probably a little bit of both. What is it that you desire out of the world, and what
Okay.
and where do you see us in that right now?
Okay. So I received it the way you intended. Okay. Wonderful. Okay. So I do believe that we're all living in different versions of the reality,
Mm-hmm.
as I touched on before. And I do not believe that the world is broken. I believe that people's perceptions of the world and the way they might interact with the world is a broken model that no longer serves.
Mm.
And as we, the world witnessed, when we're all locked down and locked away and taken away from the world thrived.
Yeah.
It was healing itself, rejuvenating. The world has always been great without us. Um, individually, we choose whether or not to complicate um, the reality. So for me, I believe the world is whole and complete, has always been and always will be, in spite of the optics of climate change, pollution, all of that. That is human activity. That is what we've done. We've set the ball rolling. We are not so advanced that we actually know what the world is capable of
Yes.
on its own. We don't know. Our understanding of our environment is so limited. We still don't know what's in the oceans. Like, let's just sit down and be humble. We don't know. So, what I do know is that I have tremendous faith in the capacity of the individual
Mm-hmm.
to evolve and to learn and to grow and to make choices that are of service across the board. And with that, just based on that alone, there's limitless possibilities.
Yeah.
And in a world of limitless possibilities, like, what am I afraid of? Right? So it's
Yeah.
the fear piece that would get us like clutching our pearls and, staring at the sky and wondering, oh my God, is today the day? I don't live in that frequency. And
Mm-hmm.
it is not to say that, I'm not in some la la land make believe. I just simply have a lived experience and a deep knowing of the realm of the miraculous. There's so much untapped potential and resources that we have yet to even imagine. We haven't even scratched the surface of what like the earth itself is able to do. Right?
Mm-hmm.
People, can surprise us every day. So I'm definitely of the mind of, if it's to be, it's up to me. Like, so I get to show up and I get to do the work and I get to become a template of what is possible and invite other people into sacred communions and have them be their whole and complete selves. I believe with each person fully embracing who they are for the highest good of all,
Yeah.
that is the world I would want to live in, where, your yes is a yes and your no is a no, and there's no
Yeah.
backstory,
Wow. Yeah. What are the best ways to get a hold of you and work with you?
Best way to get a hold of me, I'm everywhere. So RachelAbah.com. So that's RachelAbah.com. Also SupremeLeadershipSummit.com. And I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn. So just type in Rachael Abah, Rachael, not EL, AEL, and reach out. Send your info on my website. You've got intake forms, so just fill out your info, send a question, and there I am.
Yeah.
I'll be more than happy to hear from you and connect with you.
Yeah. So, By the way, I really love your name because I do speak a little bit of Hebrew, and if you're saying Abba, and that's
Yes, father.
father, yeah, which
Yeah.
which isn't it isn't mother and father aren't masculine roles; they're caring
No.
roles.
Yes.
We've had
Yes.
sometimes I think we
We're
forget
about to
that.
go down a rabbit hole again. You're doing
Yeah.
it. You're doing it again.
So anyway, thank you everybody for listening to me
I
speak
love
with
it.
Rachel. It's always wonderful to talk to you, and
And you.
so many rabbit holes. We'll have you back again and again. All right, so everybody, if you haven't already clicked on that subscribe button, please find it, click on it, and come back time and again for more and more updates. We try to find the most wonderful people we can to present. So, all right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.